what the teams were saying is that they were led to believe it was going to be an open thing and they'd each get their shot, and the teams generally felt that it was predetermined.
It's the Inside Scoop with Ken Rosenthal. Let's get right to biz. We did have a little bit of biz last night, Ken, and I know Atlanta Braves fans are actually really excited when they saw your report about Craig Kimbrel returning to the Braves. And I know there's a little bit of a road ahead for him to actually make the squad. But what did you think of the move? And, are we at this point where someone like him, who had a bad finish to the season, needs to sign technically a minor league deal late in his career?
Yes, we're seeing that with a number of players right now. It's not going to be all of them. We still might see some major league deals, but Kimbrel is a really interesting one because this, of course, is full circle for him. Started his career with the Atlanta Braves, willing to go there, go back there, go to the minors for a little bit and see where it goes. And the Braves also signed James McCann to a non-roster invite this week. He's in the same situation. Will go to AAA. And I don't know where Kimbrel is going to be in a month, but it's going to be an interesting thing to track him and see if he can ultimately help that bullpen, which for the Braves is going to be maybe a work in progress to some degree. They've got Iglesias, of course, at the back. I'm kind of intrigued by where they are right now, Scott, especially with Strider pitching so well in his debut for the spring the other day, and Smith-Shawver also looking really good.
Hey, Ken, I want to stay right there. And when you talk about Spencer Strider and how dominant he looked in his debut, how difficult have you heard for it that it might be for the Braves to not rush that process? When he came out and looked so dominant and so good, where are they with, kind of slowly bringing him along, even though he looks like he's ready now?
Cam, you're right. That was a revelation. They didn't expect that. So clearly they're going to follow a process and they're going to try to do this on a proper course. But at the same time, if the signals he's giving are, I'm ready to go, they can maybe accelerate that a little bit. I don't know exactly how they're going to approach it. It's difficult. And you guys know this as players. When a player feels he's ready to go, he doesn't want to be held back. And at the same time, there is a procedure you follow in recoveries from surgeries, and he's kind of on track with that. So they're not going to be doing anything stupid. And they've got Acuna kind of in a similar situation, of course. I don't know when we can expect to see him full go, but Spencer Strider by early May, I would expect no latest, is going to be a factor for the Braves.
Let's stay in the East and talk about the Marlins' lack of spending. Could there actually, we hear the word grievance that you wrote in your article, could there actually be some kickback from this? Or even better, could there actually be change throughout the league based on what the Marlins are doing?
Eric, what I wrote about was something Evan Drellick and I wrote about a couple of months ago with regard to the A's. And that is when you're getting revenue sharing, your luxury tax payroll has to end up at the end of the season 1.5 times your amount of revenue sharing received. So this isn't necessarily an urgent situation for the Marlins right now, but they're an estimated $20 million below where they should be. I don't see them adding $20 million during the season. In fact, they're going to trade most likely Sandy Alcantara, and at that point, they'll be even further away from this threshold that is imaginary right now, but it is real by the end of the season. So, yes, could it lead to a grievance? Absolutely it could. And where the grievance ends up, good question. We never seem to hear about the outcomes of these things. Could it lead to change? That's perhaps the bigger question, right? And you've heard a lot of talk about a salary floor, and the owners say, well, we're not going to do a salary floor without a salary cap. Understandable. My contention on that is that they already have a soft cap with the luxury tax system in place. Why not put a similar system with penalties and floating numbers at the bottom of the pay scale if you're not going to do a salary cap? And I don't believe the sport is going to do that, at least not without a major fight. So this never seems to get discussed. Maybe I should write about it, but why not put the same series of mechanisms in place at the bottom that you have at the top? You go below a certain level, you get penalized. You go beyond a certain level or below a level beyond that, you get penalized even more. To me, that seems like a logical way to go if the current system remains intact.
Teams not trying and get fined, and teams that are trying, they get fined. Okay, I like that, Ken. I like it. If you
What would
spend
you?
a lot of
I mean,
time,
Eric, it's either that or a cap.
I like
There's
it.
going to be something in place,
We got to increase the competitive part of it. That's all that players are looking for, and I think that's all
Yes,
fans are looking for. Competition, be competitive. It's a monopolistic league, nobody else, and so when you have that, you have to keep the integrity of the competition.
totally
When you
agree.
play, when you play in this game, as long as Max Scherzer has, you're going to run into people that cross paths in your life. Can you tell us where Jake Berger and Max Scherzer's paths cross?
Well, they didn't really cross, but Jake Berger's mom's path crossed with Max Scherzer. She was his sixth grade social studies teacher. She also had him for a rotation of English as well. And Max actually told me about this spring, and I was immediately intrigued. And I was like, "Wow, let's talk about this." And he's like, "I don't really want to talk about this. Just say it's cool, but I feel like I'm old." And that was all he said for Max. That's pretty limited in a comment. So I did pursue it, and I talked to Jake Berger. I talked to Jake Berger's mom. I talked to Dane Dunning, who kind of was Max's teammate and Jake's former teammate with the White Sox. And it was a fun story to do. Shannon Berger, Jake's mom, was kind of excited, just reminiscing about Max as a 12-year-old. He was a good kid, she said. He was really smart, really athletic. Obviously, he attracted attention even back then with his two different color eyes. So, just a fun little story to do today. And I hope people read it and enjoy it.
Ken, I know you don't sleep much, and I'm sure your phone has been going crazy watching this Tokyo series. Any word on Roki Sasaki today? I mean, I know he had a little inning where he struggled a little bit. I thought he might have just nibbled a little bit much, but the stuff was there. The stuff was electric. What are you hearing about how excited they are about his debut in Tokyo?
Cam, they're excited, and I can't speak to their reactions necessarily to what happened today, but in general, they see him as a project. They see him as a guy that is not going to be a finished product right away, someone who is going to develop as the season goes on and as his career goes on. Clearly, as you mentioned, the raw stuff is there. The split is pretty incredible. So it's a matter of acclimating him to the major league game, to the American culture, the North American culture, and of course, getting to the point where he can be the kind of pitcher that everyone projects him to be. He showed flashes of that today. There's no question about it. And he's going to be good from every indication, but he's not, again, a finished product, and it's going to take some work to get him to the point where they want him to be. Remember, he's only 23. He hasn't pitched all that much, and there's a full career ahead of him.
When you talk about that project, Ken, today, I was extremely encouraged. Did you get a chance to see his slider today? His slider was an elite pitch as well as the splitty. I know we talk about the fastball splitty, and a lot of people wonder, did he have enough repertoire to, do it at the big league level? But today there was a slider that was, I mean, lights out. What have you heard anything on that projection
Yes.
or progress?
Yeah, he's been working on that. And Cam, you guys know this. He's going to need a third pitch. And the slider, if it can be that for him, my goodness, then he becomes a little bit different of a pitcher than he was in Japan. And it makes a huge difference, especially in the major leagues. So, yes, that was something very notable out of his start today. And I expect that that's going to be something he works on developing as the season goes on and his career goes on.
More in a minute, but first, a quick word from our sponsor of this video. FT fam, I hope you have as much confidence as Penelope right now, who is an avid Spot and Tango fan, okay? And she uses the code FOUL, Kratz, because this is a personalized dog food subscription service that prevents you, of course, from going to the store to pick up the food, and she just gets the highest quality unkibble. That is what they're known for. And I know you love the quiz part of it too.
It's a super quick quiz, but it lets you give them the information and they tailor it to what is needed based on their age, size, activity level, all things that are custom for each and every one of your dogs.
Yeah, human grade ingredients in that unkibble. USDA meat, fruits, and veggies that are approved there. No artificial stuff, no preservatives. They've got the exclusive deal for the FT fam for a limited time. Go to spotandtango.com/foul. Use code FOUL to get 50% off your first order. That's spotandtango.com/foul. It's spotandtango.com/foul, code foul. And now back to the video. Ken, let's finish with this on the topic of Roki Sasaki. We went over your article from a couple days ago about the recruiting process. It got some pretty good play in a number of spots, including obviously some fans being like, we already know about this. I encourage them to read the article. There's a lot more detail that we didn't know about. I didn't even know about Dentsu, and I'm a business guy. I love learning about business and marketing, so I thought that was fascinating. Can you give us a little insight on basically all of the work that you put together to give us more on this process and how the tone was from executives that you spoke to who lost out on Roki?
There were a number of executives who were very upset. And they were upset because in their mind, the process was predetermined, that Dentsu, this incredibly large marketing company, an advertising agency in Japan, most powerful corporation arguably in Japan, played a role here. They are not his contract negotiator. That was Joel Wolf of Wasserman who did that, but they were involved working with Wolf, and a guy named Tomoki Sakai was his direct marketing representative. So it ended up, the process did, the way so many of us expected it to end up, with the Dodgers getting him. But what the teams were saying is that they were led to believe it was going to be an open thing and they'd each get their shot. And the teams generally felt that it was predetermined, that it didn't turn out to be the open process they thought it would be. And that is where their frustration came in. Now, another part of this is that Dentsu, if they're going to take more of an active role with Japanese players going forward, and teams feel this way, they also represent Yamamoto. So if that's the case, teams are going to have to learn to deal with this and figure out just how to go about it. It's an interesting dynamic that was taking place here because the American agent, Joel Wolf, wasn't seemingly the mover and shaker here. It was Dentsu represented by Sakai, and that is what made it so interesting. And for fans who say they knew all of this already, well, God bless them, because I didn't know any of it until I started working on it.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating. I'm with you. So my follow-up here, twofold. One is I felt like the words from Joel Wolf about what he was looking for made more sense now because he was not necessarily the one that was making decisions or as involved as he was for Yamamoto, who was actually seeking player contract money versus Sasaki, kind of surveying the field. To me, your article made it make sense for me that the Blue Jays were involved because Dentsu could have had this double header matchup every night for their media rights with the Blue Jays playing, and then even when Sasaki wasn't pitching, and then the Dodgers at night for Japanese fans to follow. So I guess my question to you is, do you feel like there was any crybabiness to executives being upset? Because technically the rules were followed. Any team could have also been in play for some of these other Japanese players that would have helped the recruiting process. And this is the system that, for the executives, your owners have created. Roki Sasaki comes over here and essentially gets to pick the team that, he wants to be a part of without the money being much of a difference. He's going to join a team that's already got a lot of, the pieces in place for him to thrive both on the field and with marketing deals.
Scott, it's a great point. And there's a line in the article, I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but I basically asked, is this simply a case where they have a legitimate complaint, or is this simply a case of Dodger envy and sour grapes for the most part? And yeah, there is an element to that. And listen, the losers in a free agent process are always, well, not always, but almost always going to be upset if it doesn't go their way. So yes, there's no question that that was part of it. And I quoted an executive from a losing bidder in the article as saying, what is his most logical choice, Sasaki? It's the Dodgers. We all know that. So sure, there's definitely that. Now, Toronto being involved did rankle a lot of people involved in the process because they felt Toronto was not a team with a history of success. This is something Joel Wolf said that they wanted, a team with a history of success and a team known within the game for pitching development. The Jays do a decent job at the major league level of pitching development, which is where Sasaki would have been. But they're not the Dodgers, and they're not some other teams as well. And I know the Dodgers guys get hurt, but generally their reputation in the game is very good for pitching development. So, Scott, sure, there is definitely an element of sour grapes here, and that's what made the article a little bit tricky to do, because for all the conspiracy theories that might be out there and all the things that might be wrong, it was Sasaki's choice, and he did get the right to do whatever he wants. And in the end, he chose a team that a lot of people figured he would choose in the first place.
Yeah, and I give credit to the Blue Jays, by the way. I know they've taken a lot of flack over the years for going after certain players, but at least they are going after them, even if they should be offering higher bids to certain players to actually win the player over. In this case, I'm thinking, what did you want them to do? Just give in? I mean, should every executive
Absolutely.
just say, let's not even try? You just don't know. I mean, I felt the same way. Most of us felt he was going to be a Dodger, but you got to try.
Right. The beef the executives had was that they were a finalist. No one expected them to be a finalist, and that's, of course, how they ended up in the process right at the end with the Padres and the Dodgers. Now, the one other thing here, if you remember, Joe Wolf at the winter meeting said, and kind of raised curiosity throughout the game when he said, hey, Sasaki might prefer a lower media market, a smaller media market. It might just be more to his personality. If that was the case, then the Padres made a whole lot of sense, even with their ownership turmoil. And of course, he didn't choose the Padres. He chose the Dodgers.
Yeah. And hey, Joel's been a great agent for a long time. He reps many players. He did the Yamamoto deal, but that line in the story about him not being able to talk much in meetings really said a lot and told me to not buy into all his comments, maybe just because he didn't know what was going on, and that's okay.
The argument was by those executives that Joe Wolf did not control the process, and they thought perhaps that he would.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's an awesome article.
That's what they hope. They hope to control the process.
Right.
They didn't want that's what they wanted. So, boo-hoo.
Hey, there's no rules on who's allowed to help in the process, in the decision-making process. It's not like, it has to be his player rep. I mean, this is
absolutely
a player
right.
from another country. So I thought it was cool. I loved learning more about the process. Ken, thank you. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later this week.
Thanks, guys.
And Fair Territory, of course, from Monday is great, and obviously encourage you to check it out. Almost everything in there obviously is still covering topics that are super relevant. And then Thursday, you'll get Alana and Ken, and they can give you more on the Tokyo series.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.